Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's Jonathan Garber with Flying Chimp Media, and I'm back for another webcast on thriving during the coronavirus crisis. Remember, our goal is not just to survive, but we're looking for people to thrive, both personally, their business, and their employees. So I've got a terrific guest today. Joining me is Neil Rosenblum from Boomtech. And say hello, Neil.
Happy to be here, Jonathan. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. Neil, give us a quick overview of Boomtech, where you at, what you do.
Yeah, Boomtech is a South Florida-based company. We work with companies in Broward, Dade, and Palm Beach County on their IT, which means basically we do three things. We make sure all their IT is working, their computers and their systems. We make sure everyone is educated and everything is secure, all your employees and your systems. And finally, we help people plan for worst-case scenarios, backup, disaster recovery, and in this case, working remotely.
This is the worst-case scenario. You've been training your whole life for this, Neil.
So I grabbed my go bag, but I'm staying at home.
So here we are. This is part of disaster planning. I've been a business continuity planner. We've got two things going on, right? Employees are working remotely,
correct,
like we are, but they're also communicating remotely. And what I noticed with some of the journals that I get, and I'm sure you get the same bulletins, scammers, once again, scammers and hackers have come out of the woodwork to exploit this crisis and rob people. What other way to put it? So people are pretending to be from the CDC. They're asking for social security numbers. People are using their home devices, which don't have the same security that an enterprise device may have. Can you help our audience understand how we can get through this safely? I understand you have 7 key strategies for people to safely work from home. Is that correct?
It is, yeah. And I'd be happy to go through those with you.
Let's go through them.
Sure. So not necessarily in a hierarchical order, but the first thing you typically think about is taking your computer with you and going home, or using your computer or web-enabled device at home. The challenge here is when you're working remote, you really have to maintain security, as you touched upon. And virus software is not the same everywhere. So we employ endpoint security, which looks at viruses at a much higher level than a Windows Defender might, or a Microsoft virus detection that you might have on your home computer. So one of the most important things to us is to make sure that when you take a computer remote, or you use a computer at home at remote, you have the same level of virus protection on that computer as you would have on your working computer at work.
Excellent. So normally, when people use a home device, right, employee-owned assets, everything that, once they make that secure pipeline connection, everything that they've dragged in on their feet for their home computer, or their kids are doing, surfing, downloading, sharing, can go up that pipeline into the corporate servers. But is that the case with the type of work you do?
Well, it is potentially the case, and we've had it with clients in the past, because you can look at it from the nefarious side, that people are trying to take advantage, and that they might actually, when there's a connection, just like if you were on Wi-Fi at Starbucks on a corporate computer, you open a door, a pathway to your network, which you don't want. It's potential. But even on the less nefarious side, on the side of like what we're doing here, video conferencing, it's about bandwidth. And when my son is in the other room and he's gaming, it really affects your bandwidth. So a lot of people need to look at what kind of network connections that they have right off the bat.
Sure. So let's go through the 7 strategies. Let's hit it on the nose, see if I get any questions, and we'll move on from there.
Absolutely. So another one we think about, when let's assume we have a computer, a corporate computer, and we're at home and we have our bandwidth and we have security. Not every application works remotely. So you really need to check before you go remote. Your time tracking software, you might think that's a typical one. Payroll programs, oftentimes they don't allow remote access. So SaaS, or software as a service, doesn't always dictate that a computer off-site connected to your network, VPN or not, will have the same access. So you really need to look at all the software that's necessary to get your business done by job function to make sure it's enabled and will be eligible to be working remote from your computer. And we think of that as our kind of our second tip.
Okay.
We talked briefly about your network.
But that goes to planning, right? That goes to having a continuity plan in place ahead of time.
Exactly. You know, I'm a collector of quotes. So one of my favorite quotes is fail to plan, plan to fail. In every disaster, in every emergency situation, the first thing you think is, oh my God, what do I do next? When you have a document, a written document, electronic or printed, that you know step 1, 2, 3, not only does it calm you, but it ensures that you don't forget a vital step, that you turn on extra bandwidth, that you connect, that you authorize these different things. And you don't have to think of it in the middle of a panic when you're often going to forget something.
You know, I worked with a company once, and they had so many people, not in a disaster, but they just had so many people would work from home and do email, et cetera, over the weekend. They just offered all the employees antivirus licenses. Just gave it to them for their home computers because they were so cheap when you bought a bundle. They just said, you know what, let's put everyone who connects from anything, please let us put antivirus on your computer and centrally manage it. I thought that was a good plan.
It is a great plan as long as it is true endpoint protection. So the virus world has gotten to a point where your virus definitions, or what your computer knows, your virus program knows is a virus, is only as good as the last time you got an update. And viruses come out every minute. So true web root virus protection, or endpoint at every computer, but it's called web root. What that does is that looks at behaviors of software and malware. And if it looks at something and says, this doesn't look just right, it could be a virus, it isolates it, and then you can look at it later. That's the type of machine learning, that's the type of software when it comes to virus protections you really need to have in place today. The stuff that typically comes with Windows is just fine for a consumer, but when you're protecting your business and your livelihood, you really need to take it to the next level in virus protection.
I tell people, if it's free, you're probably getting your money's worth.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it too. Like I said, I collect quotes. I'll use that one. You
got it. All right, what's your third tip?
So we talked briefly about your network and how much it can handle. So typically in an office, when you're working on a network, you're at a certain level, but the moment that you move people outside who are accessing your your network and your server through a VPN or a dial-up or a logman, all sorts of different ways, the tax on your network is going to be much greater. And what you might need to do is call your internet service provider, upgrade your bandwidth so you're prepared for that, so you can communicate. Keeping in mind that when we do like a video conference like this that's two-way, not only is it important to be able to download, for me to pull your image, but also to feed back. So bandwidth up and down are both very important and something to keep in mind in this case.
I think a lot of people focus on a download speed, but they don't realize there is an upload component, and they're not the same. They're usually way out of proportion to each other. And when we are doing streaming video, which you think about it, how long ago were people not streaming video, and now everybody is. You got to up your upload speed as well in order to have parity and not have the latency. Excellent.
That's exactly right, because we're only used to download. Oh, exactly. That video looked
watching
great.
Movies, Netflix, those kind of things. All right, so what's the fourth big one?
So now let's talk about your phones. I was actually just talking to somebody about this. I'm very lucky at my company. I literally picked up my phone, unplugged the power, and unplugged the internet connection, and brought it home and plugged it in to my internet and power, and I have the same phone number. I didn't have to program anything. I didn't have to worry. I pick up, I dial an extension, I get my boss, who might be 3 states away in that case. So not every phone, much less every internet-enabled phone or voice over internet protocol, has the same technology built into it. And looking at that and making sure that your phone can be configured so you can work remotely with the same exact number, the same extension you have is to us the next tip, and an important area to really look at.
I think if you are a business that is focused on customer service, this is the time you have to be reachable by your clients. So even if not every employee is taking their phone home and pretending that nothing has happened, somebody has to be able to take calls on that main line. It's got to be at least forwarded to somebody's cell phone, or as you said, if you've got an enabled voice over IP, let them take it home, plug it in, maybe take turns answering the calls from panicked clients. So great tip, great tip.
I called a company today who I've been working with, and there was no answer and there was no voicemail. I don't know if they're working remotely or not, but I will tell you this, again, collector of quotes, a sign of no business is a business with no sign.
Right.
So it's very important that you can still pick up the phone. People need to be reassured whether you're working remotely or not. You need to communicate with your customers or your clients and make sure they understand, even while you're working remotely, everyone's 100% up to speed and we're still able to take care of your needs.
You know, I think that point can't be overemphasized because it really goes to the heart of service, and a servant leadership heart is, if you're not there for your customers in a crisis, they're not going to be there for you on a clear sunny day.
Absolutely.
You got to take care of them. All right, great tip. How about number 5?
So we talked a little bit about programs that you might have to, that don't actually work from the cloud, even though they're software based from the cloud. But there's also licensing issues. So let's suppose I work with a travel agency client and they have a specific CRM, customer relationship management software they work, but they only have so many licenses for remote. So just assuming a cloud-based software program, even if you have the bandwidth, will work remotely can be a fallacy. And you need to make sure that you have enough licenses in place that everyone will be able to take advantage of that software in a remote situation. And that's a really important thing to keep in mind.
You know, that goes back to planning again. I think the world got caught flat-footed by this. I wouldn't point a finger at any particular person, leader, country. I think the world got caught flat-footed. But do you guys provide this kind of continuity planning as a consulting engagement for the IT space?
Actually, we do. So our business is called Total Peace of Mind. That's our product. And as I mentioned before, it does 3 things. We make sure that you're up and running all the time. We make sure that everyone's educated so they're secure and your systems are secure. And the last and most key component, because someone will attack you, you will have a disaster, is backup and disaster recovery. You need to be prepared for the worst case scenario as well as the best case scenario,
Right.
and have that written down. So we walk all our clients through that. We help them set it up because we know the questions to ask. We've done it many, many times. It varies by industry. It varies by company. So it has to be tailored. But at the same time, there's key components. And it's not just backing up files, as some people think the way to do it is backing up files, because if you have to lose a server or a computer, putting your files on it is only one step. You have to restore all the software programs. You have to reconfigure everything. We're talking hours and hours. A true backup, and just to digress for a moment, includes an actual image of the computer and everything that's on it. So when you put your files back on after the image, it's like nothing has changed, and something that can take an hour or 2 versus days potentially. So it's really, really important to think about it. Don't just back up your files with one of the main brands out there, because that's not a real backup of your computer, only of your files.
So the kind of backup you're talking about, let me just make sure I get it straight, because most people listening are not technical. They're not they're lay people, right?
Right.
If we have a backup, a quality backup, an image-based backup, it doesn't matter if their office is destroyed. There's a leak in the air conditioning of the ceiling. It doesn't matter if there's a worldwide pandemic. It doesn't matter if there's a hurricane and they just have no power or anything at the internet at the office. It doesn't matter if there's ransomware that has compromised the primary server, or just hardware failure, right? Hard drives all die.
They will die.
Everything in the server's a wear item, right?
Exactly.
Great. So we got the backup. We know no matter what, we could get the backup and running again, as long as that backup is also kept off site. Never put it right with.
We always back up locally on every hour, and then multiple hours will back up online to the cloud. And that way you can back up anywhere. You have to, in today's world, nobody has time for someone who can't help them, who can't answer the phone and do business for them. You have to plan this way. I think almost in every industry, you have to be prepared.
It's funny because, Flying Chimp, we deal with search engine optimization as one of our services.
Right.
And I tell people, I can get you to the first page of Google, okay? People will call you, but if you're not there to answer the phone, they just go to the next one. Showing up high on a search ranking is not the same as money in your pocket. It means you have the opportunity before everybody else. What you do with that opportunity is up to you. You've got to have a human being answer the phone, provide answers and service. Because as soon as someone can't get through or has to go through some automated BS, they hang up and go, who's the next one on Google? They don't care. There's
Jonathan,
no loyalty at that point. You know what I mean?
Perception is reality. If I call you and I can't get through, you're out of business.
You're not available to help me.
Yeah, exactly. And I go right on to the next one, whether it's factual, whether you were on another call or not. And it's so important today.
It doesn't matter. Absolutely. All right. Are we up to tip number 6?
We are at tip number 6.
I want to make sure I didn't miss any.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think this is one of the biggest ones. There are people, rightly so, very, very scared. And when you get in situations like this and you don't have the plan, you jump. And maybe you don't have the precautions you had in place. I want to tell you right now, the increase in cyber crime is gone crazy. The amount of emails, click here to get the mask, click here to learn more. Every company I have a relationship with, every airline has sent me an email. I'm getting inundated with emails. The challenge here is an employee is going to get an email because they're being inundated, and they're not going to look carefully to see who it's sent from, or it'll look like it's sent from somebody official, but it won't be. And they're going to click on the link. The moment you click on that link and you go to the website, a doorway is open, and now your security could potentially be breached. And the liability is not just getting your business back up and running. That's a fallacy. The liability here is you have to notify everybody. You have to hire a forensic investigator to find out actually what was done so you can protect it and what was stolen. You have to do remedy. You have to worry about your public relations. It's amazing how many people out there don't realize all the ramifications. It's the tip of the iceberg when you answer or click on that link and the door opens too wide.
So the weakest link in the security chain is always the employees.
Well, one of the things we always say is security isn't something to be solved. It's something to be managed. But the biggest risk in security has been and always will be you and me. It's your employees. And it's about training them so they're educated. They know what to do. If they have a question, stop. Right. Don't open it. Don't even worry about it. You know, you had the old days of having a spam filter and looking at it once in a while or something. We're so far past that. And really where we're going, and I think you're going to see this at the end of this year and more, is dual factor authentication. Where like today, when I log into our main CRM program, which is huge for our company, I have to open a secondary program. I have to enter a code and get a code that's only good for 20 seconds. And then I enter it in to the program to start the program. Or I'll get a text right on my cell phone that I have to enter to verify that I'm on my phone. It's me actually accessing it.
By the way, I mean, people could and should be using two-factor authentication on their social media, on their Facebook, on their LinkedIn. They, on the individual level, should be using that now.
I will tell you still the most popular password in America is password 1234. Whether you believe it or not, people still do.
They put the 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow.
Yeah. Or maybe they go 1, 2, 3. People aren't thinking about it.
Really lazy.
Lucky, my son's a computer scientist. He told me I had to upgrade all my passwords years ago, which I have done. And it's a policy today. And we rotate passwords. We require every employee to update their password every 20 days. And it can't be the same password as you had before.
Wow.
You really have to be sensitive to this. One of the things we do when we start with the new client is we look at their server, we look at their workstations, and then we go out to the intranet and we go to the dark web and we look to see if any of those passwords or anything related to their domain, their .com domain, is on the dark web. And then we show them what it's worth and we ask them about these passwords. So looking at that and auditing that kind of leads us into the 7th tip that we have at Boomtech, and that is training. Now, it might seem very simple. Okay, Jane, you work from your home office the same hours you worked before, and here's your computer, and you answer your phone. But there's a lot more to that when you're working remote when it comes to training employees. Are you having webinars? What's the schedule? What software do we use for webinars? What's acceptable and unacceptable? I think a lot of people fear when they don't. Well, they fear that their employees are just going to goof off, that they're not going to be putting the time in. So it's a simple thing to manage. You have a to-do list. People get their to-do list done. They're done. But training them how to work at home when they don't have social interaction, that's the
no one
big
looking
change.
over their shoulder.
Exactly. And no one to chat with. I mean, for many of us, being at work is a social experience as well.
Yeah. That's the old water cooler or coffee pot. And hey, there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of information can be passed that way. So that is all 7 of your tips for safely working at home. Neil, thank you. You know, it reminds me, last year, we had a close brush with a hurricane in South Florida.
We did.
And I don't know where anybody else is watching this now, but Neil and I are both in South Florida. But we had a close brush with a hurricane. We had to shut down our office. We had to take all the computers up off the floor and put them in garbage bags and, you know, unplug everything. And it missed. Now, I've been through some pretty serious hurricanes, including a Category 5. I was down in Miami for Andrew. So I don't regret missing a hurricane. I've been through enough of them. But I said about that, that close brush, it goes, well, it was practice. We found out what worked. We found out what didn't work. I hope that this COVID-19 crisis is over quickly. I can't control that, but if nothing else, I think it's a wake-up call. You know what I mean? It's a practice for everything that could come, and no business or individual or entrepreneur or business owner should come out of this on the other side having not learned something. Does that make sense?
I think the way we do business in the future will be fundamentally changed. I was talking to a friend of mine over the weekend who's a CFO, and we were having this discussion, and he's at 10,000 square feet from his office, and he needs 1,000 right now. And he's going, you know, everyone's working really well from home. We've been doing it for a week. I wonder how much our company could save. He's looking at the numbers as CFO, going from 100,000 maybe to 10,000 square feet. Now, he has a very large company, but the way companies, I think you're going to see more and more employees who are going to be, I don't want to use the word stuck. I'm lucky to have a home office, but are going to be in a situation where they have to make it work working from home. Corporations are going to see a real value in that.
I think distributed workforces, right now we're a forced distributed workforce, but I think workforces have been begging for good distribution techniques for decades. Somebody goes home on maternity leave. She'd like to go back to work after 6 weeks, but doesn't want to give up being with the child. You really don't want to retrain somebody who worked for you for 6, 7, 10 years, right? Well, why couldn't she work from home maybe for another year or so? Somebody goes up to North Carolina to take care of a aging parent with Alzheimer's. Could they really do their job remotely? Do you really want to try and replace them? Do they have so much inside corporate knowledge that retraining and replacing them is extremely burdensome? Distributed workforce, right? So
listen, it's always easier to work with current employees than it is to be down and have to replace them. Sure. The institutional knowledge that they have of all the ins and outs is invaluable. And that's not something you can even teach. That's something that takes time. And that's something that's gained working at a company. But I think you are going to see, like I said, more of this. I think people are going to see the value. And I think companies are going to go, we have to heal. And what can we do to cut costs? And the worst thing is laying people off. The not as worst thing is maybe you have to stay working from home, and we'll see how that does. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a fundamental change for us. I really do. So on your side of the game, you're working with everyone in their web space, and everyone's going online now. So I have no idea how that's changing. Obviously, we have a website, but I mean, so what's going on there on the website, Jonathan? Well,
we are actively working every day. Our office is distributed, but not closed. We are we're working on a couple of new websites right now for people who are trying to serve people through the crisis, and also people who are positioning themselves for a recovery because they're not ready to pack up their business and say, that's it, I'm done. They have no alternative. So there's two things. One is letting your clients, your market, know that you're open for business.
Right.
So we've gone back to all of our clients, particularly those in law. That's a big vertical for us. And we've put up pop-ups on their website. You go there, it's going to pop up window and say, hey, video consultations are available now. So that an attorney can consult with a client. You can even scan and send documents. You can take pictures with your cell phone and send them. It's no big deal. And our clients are letting their clients know that they can still work with them on time and services and consulting. So we've gone back and we're adding those pop-ups. We're helping clients learn how to use this technology and be effective with it. We are jumping in and continuing and expanding our search engine optimization for clients. And you may think that's nuts, but this may go on for a couple of weeks, but your web ranking position, you got to wear that for a long time. And when there's a smaller pie, Neil, right? On the other side of this, there's probably a smaller economic pie. On the other hand, some of your competition may also have shaken out, which means there's a chance for you to get a bigger slice of a smaller pie. You have to be positioned to do that. And you have to do that by making sure that people can find you, that you are on the first page, that you're in the local search box, that people find you on social media, that you are present and available. Does that make sense?
It does. You know, we're forced to adapt.
Yeah.
But is it the Marines that say adapt and overcome?
Adapt, improvise, and overcome.
There you go.
And,
exactly. So this has got to be an opportunity.
Exactly. And our final tip that we're doing with our clients and telling our clients to do with their clients is pick up the phone or schedule a web chat like this and communicate.
Right.
Just touch base with them. Just let them know we're open for business. This is how you can do business with us. This is how we can serve you. And is there anything we can do to help you? When you ask that question, you're creating a connection and a loyalty potential for life long beyond when this crisis is over, and I hope it's over soon.
I think people, I couldn't agree more. People will, I'm going to get that pop-up on our website. But people will,
you need help.
I
you
love
know where
that.
to go, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All
but,
right. Well, Neil, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure to see you. Haven't seen you in a couple weeks. And I thank you so much for sharing your time and your insight and wisdom with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jonathan. Best to you.
Take care.